Something feels different today. I don't know, the floor looks... What's going on over here? Oh my god. It's the Wake Up Show. And by the looks of it, you are awake. And I'm here on my moon carpet, but something is different. I am not in the basement anymore. Boy. Holy mackerel! I have moved up to ground level and have invaded the Dreamer Comic Book Store to do the show from here. Because the guest on tonight's episode is actually the owner of this beautiful cave of wonder. And yeah, we will be having a great time here in the not-so-basementy place. KanonCon? KanonCon? Yes. You know what? I feel great today. Not only do I feel great, I feel so great that in a sense it feels like me and the room is the same thing. I'm just sort of... I feel awesome. I feel so great that there is nothing else to talk about than running the intro. Bow!
Live from the Dream, aka Drummond, it's the Wake Up Show with your host, Wolf Thunder Flitty.
Oh, hello there. Welcome to the show. Yeah, different chair. Oh, it's more comfortable than the garden chair that I have in my basement. I have to say this is quite the upgrade. And look, like it looks like a proper place, because it is a proper place. I have a great show for you guys here tonight. My technician Markus is here. We have a wonderful guest, which is sort of this is his place. And you have to remember that to make this thing... Where did I put the piece of paper? My God. Well, I don't need a piece of paper anymore because we've gone all technological. You know, I rely on you, my beautiful viewer, to help make this thing into the thing that it already is, but with a bit more pizzazz. Patreon.com/TheWakeUp Show, where you can support the show and make a difference, you know, be part of the crew, be part of the gang, be part of the tribe, be part of my great adventure towards talk show host stardom, which is already here because, you know, I'm living the dream. I'm doing what I dreamt last night of doing. Can't remember actually what I dreamt last night. I'm sorry about it. Now, in addition to actually being in a comic book store, I have also other great news today, which is I have a sponsor. And this sponsor is making the finest cacao in the dream. Criollo. Criollo? I guess it's a Spanish word. It's a chocolate bar in the dream where you can go and get your vegan organic cacao and look, for me. Smells delicious. And if you by chance don't live in the dream, you can go to ecochocolate.no or something like that. And then you can get this fine organic, naturally grown from Peru, I think, or maybe it's Colombia. It's, I'll fact check that for next time. But it's so great, you know. Odaril, it was on the show, and he's a great guy, and he makes great cacao and chocolate products, and who am I to resist? It smells great. It tastes wonderful. Oh, it's so great. Well, enough about the technicalities of making this a sustainable livelihood. I think it's time we welcome our guests, which is the owner of this establishment. His name is Morten, and Morten, would you be so kind as to come into the studio, which is actually your place, but at the same time, forgot the applause thing, I guess.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
It's so great to...
And should I say welcome to you as well, since
Yes.
we're in my house?
What a lovely place.
Thank you very much.
A comic book store.
And so much more.
And so much more, but because there's a lot of different stuff.
But it's also, it's what it represents. I mean, it's not just comics, retro games, toys, you know, collectibles. It's a manifestation of my dream,
Oh,
which
I like
is
this.
which is quite appropriate since we are in the dream as well.
Poetry. Now, I think it says on your lower third that you are a comic book store owner and a Uber nerd. You told me that you actually would like to prefer to be called a
Chief Nerd,
chief nerd.
which is my official title.
Your official title, chief nerd. Because there is something nerdy about comics books and also about, like, well, gadgets, memorabilia, retro gaming. You know,
Definitely.
As I recall, being a nerd was sort of, I guess when we grew up, was not like the coolest title to sort of have on your, on a post-it note on the back of your...
Right under Kick Me? No, definitely. I mean, I think being a nerd has changed quite a lot. You know, when we grew up, we had the Revenge of the Nerd movies and all that kind of stuff. But to me, nerd is more a stamp of approval. It's something positive. It represents a dedication and an enthusiasm.
You're passionate about something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know something about it. So to nerds everywhere, it's just, you know, it's something you're passionate about. And people who disrespect you or look down at you because, you know, you consider yourself a nerd, well, maybe they don't have anything in their life that makes them passionate.
They don't have any passion in their life. I feel sorry for them. And
Me
you know, my passion obviously is being a talk show host. Do I have like a lower third? Should say talk show host nerd. Well,
Nerdy talk show host.
nerdy talk show host. That will also work. A comic book store in the dream. Now,
Yep.
you know, when I sort of wonder about things that have showed up in my reality, what I typically like to do is I go out into the dream and then I ask my fellow dreamers what they sort of think about comic books. I think I asked them about, yeah? Do you read comic books?
I did before, I don't now anymore. I read like some Donald Ducks and some Lucky Lukes, but not anymore.
Are you a comic book guy? You read comic books?
No,
No? Why not?
I don't know. Good question.
Do you read comic books?
Yeah. Yes. A little bit.
Do you read them?
Yes. No.
No? Why?
I think it's nice to read them in the newspaper. The little
like
ones.
the short ones.
The short ones.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite?
No, I don't have a favorite yet.
Well, I think it has to be from childhood, probably Donald Duck.
Donald Duck.
And lately we have it's a German comic. It's called SITS.
Just maybe like I was kid.
When you was a
maybe.
kid?
Yeah, that's Tom and Jerry, right? Also.
Yes, Tom and Jerry also.
Yeah. Of course, it's my favorite. Yeah, still.
So it turns out that people in the dream, some read comics, some don't. Some have favorites, some don't. And I guess many people sort of think about comic books as a childhood thing. And I guess also, speaking for myself, when I was a kid, I would read my Donald Ducks, my Spider-Mans, my Hulks, and whatnot. But at some point in time, it sort of disappeared from my field of view and didn't actually show up until the Marvel Cinematic Universe started sort of churning out superheroes left and right. How long have you been sort of passionate about this comic book thing?
Well, I'm 47 now, so I'll have to say 43 years of my life.
43 years.
So my first memory of comic books, I lived in Sierra Leone in West Africa.
Ah.
And the mayor of Freetown, which is the city we lived in, and also the capital of the country, she was married to a Norwegian guy. And so she could speak a little Norwegian. So when we were there, I remember vividly, she was reading a magazine, Norwegian magazine, called Pelefant, which is like a small blue elephant, toy elephant comic book. And she would read it in the most broken Norwegian you could ever imagine. But she would read it with such passion and such, you know, every sound word she would pronunciate, and it's just stuck, you know, it's stuck in my memory as, you know, something really, really positive and terrific. Oh. And so yeah, I mean, I've been a comic book fan my entire life.
And like, obviously now I haven't read comic books in a long time. My son has just recently started sort of subscribing to Donald Duck and sort of like getting into all that stuff. He's 10. And I've sort of flipped through them, and it brings back sort of like these, like, I guess, childhood feelings of these adventures in a different form than films or regular literature. What is it about comic books that you like so much?
That's a very good question. And I don't really have a terrific answer for that. I don't know. It's just... There's something, you know, obviously visual about it. It's a way of telling stories in another medium, basically. I mean, you can read a novel, you can watch a movie or a television show, or you know, it's a way of communicating. One of several other ways of communicating a story. I mean, and it's been around forever. I mean, you know, like the Egyptian hieroglyphs, that's like a comic.
That's obviously a comic.
So you know, and the what do you call them? The stone painting, the cave paintings of that's a comic. It's an illustration of something that happened, and I don't know. It's just so many talented artists who are creating just this wonderful art and communicating this writer's story, and it just gripped me like a great movie can grip me. And one of the reasons why many people drop out of comics is that people frown and they say, "Oh, it's for kids," like you said, you know. Yeah. But because they say, you know, proper literature, you use your mind to visualize.
Yes.
Which is, can I swear? Bullshit. I don't know.
Yes, you can swear because
this is the internet, right? We can do anything.
After 10, it's a late night TV show.
Right, that's right.
Swear, yeah.
So, but it's not true. I mean, it's not true. It's the dynamic of a comic book actually really piques your mind. You have to use your mind. The way a page layout is designed and the size of the panels, it all indicates a rhythm and time passing. So and your mind naturally fills in the gaps between panel 1 and panel 2, where something happens in panel 1 and then something completely different happens in panel 2. Well, so your mind fills in the gap, like a movie almost, of what happened in between that space and time. So to those who, you know, frown upon comics, well, you just don't know what you're talking about, basically.
There we go. It's you know, it's the speaking about something you don't know anything about, as if you knew something about it.
Exactly.
It will get us nowhere.
This is why, you know, one of the topics I won't bring up today is like astrophysics, because I know bubkus about that.
Shit at that. Let's not go into astrophysics. I agree.
Yeah, let's make that a point.
And then, but because I know for a fact, because you know, a couple of episodes ago, I had a comic book writer, Øystein Runde, as a guest on the show, and he said, you know, there's a comic book store in the Dream, and I was like, what? That's incredible. He said it just opened up. So you haven't been running this shop for a long time.
That's true. I opened it up on February 13th. It was my Valentine's Day gift to nerds here in the Dream.
That's so lovely.
And then on March 14th, like 1 month later, I had to close it down because of COVID-19.
Yes.
So, you know, there's a full lockdown in effect here in the Dream, which is sort of, you know, it's not a proper nightmare yet, this Dream, but it's, you know, it's getting there. No, so yeah, I've been open 1 month, and then I had to close for 1 month. So it's like a reboot. It's like Marvel does, you know, every once in a while with their comics.
Yeah, you have to.
So I'm rebooting, you know. It's just a slow reboot.
So you decided to start a comic book shop during a plague. Interesting.
See, you need to, you need to divert your mind in bad times, and this is such a happy place. Everybody who walks in here walks in with a big smile on their face, and they find something, or they just come in to soak in the atmosphere. They talk to me, or they talk to other people in here, and that's made their day. And
it's a place of wonder.
Exactly.
Magic.
And of joy and of happiness, and it's just. This is why I started the comic book shop, or this nerd shop, really, because it just makes me happy.
Yeah,
and I want to spread that
contagious.
joy.
It spreads, and like the plague, the remedy we need is for someone to spread joy and happiness, not promote
Instead
fear
of the plague.
and obviously the virus itself. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But it is. I mean, happiness is contagious.
It is.
So the more that people are happy, then it grows, and that's one of the things we do here. We make people happy.
Make people happy. What happened that made you decide to start living the dream?
It's a good question.
Because there are 40 years of doing stuff, and then just recently you're doing something that, as I recall it, you called it living your dream.
Exactly.
So what happened, man?
Well, I've done a lot of things in my life, and
most people do.
Exactly. And 2020 was a shit year.
2020 does get a kind of bad rep.
Yeah, it does have a bad rep, and I was all for 2021, but it looks pretty shit as well. But for one thing, I'm living my dream. So 2020, I went through a breakup. My wife and I, or my ex-wife now, we left each other after 22 years, which is not a pleasant experience.
So that's the previous millennium you got together. Yeah,
exactly.
It's a long time.
So while the split was very menial, I mean, it was we're still friends. It's never happy. It's never a happy thing to break up.
Because it's so complicated, right?
Well, it was. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of factors, obviously. But yeah, it's never happy when a marriage ends. It's always not very nice, to put it that way. And then, of course, this whole COVID thing was quite, it sort of gets to you after a while, and it gets to my business. Yes. I had an advertising agency, I still do, for real estate developers. And, we had, everything, the entire world slowed down. We had to furlough some people, and it was a tough period. I mean, and then my sister, just to top it all off, was obviously starting to lose her battle with cancer as well. And she passed away in December, unfortunately. So I got to thinking that life is too short. She passed away when she was 50, and I'm 47. I could go tomorrow. Nobody knows, right?
Nobody knows.
And I want to live every day, the rest of my life, in happiness. I don't want to, I'll do a lot of stuff that is not fun, but it's all for, it's all towards that goal of ultimate happiness. Not just for me, but for everyone I associate with. I want to affect everyone's lives.
I like that. That's exactly why I started this show.
I know.
Because that's what the Wake Up Show is all about. And 2020 was also the year where I sort of made the commitment to sort of, well, am I just going to wait for the perfect time? Okay, so I'm financially set, the kids, everything is sorted, the house is up to code, we have the cabin in the woods, and we have some sort of boat. I don't know, it seems like things people want to have in order to have a happy life. And obviously I knew, as we all know, that these things don't really make you happy at all. The family does actually make you happy, but sort of like the pursuit of a career, for the career itself, or things, doesn't really get you anywhere. And I've been working in television for a long time, and I was like, it's time. And then I had a dream, and God and James Corden came and said, "You're the next talk show host." And I'm like, well, hell yeah, that's exactly what I need right now. And then I wanted to do Wayne's World from the basement. And
or
obviously,
for my comic shop.
in time, I know that if you do something and you enjoy doing it, then it will actually grow. And Lord behold, we are now no longer in the basement. Obviously, I'm not going to come here every Thursday and sort of
Well, that would be fun,
put up a
actually.
studio, even though I am tempted.
That would be great fun. It would.
But like, it's something about what you said. It's like divorce, death, plagues. It's pretty like dark matter. But you managed to get something to grow out of that. And nurtured something like lovely, something joyful out of something painful. I think that's very very brave and also inspiring. Because typically if shit happens, then you might sort of get stuck in the mud, which we typically do. And obviously, at times you'd think like, well, I just have to push harder and then I'll get out of it. But typically, it's like letting it go and see what else sort of pops up, and then all of a sudden you have Super Mario All-Stars and Super Nintendos hanging around, which is pretty neat.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's, I mean, it's so easy to just keep trudging along and just accepting that this is my life now.
Yeah.
And, that's what I didn't want. I mean, I wanted to do something, something fun. And, yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
If you take life too seriously, you're not going to enjoy yourself very much. And as you said, any minute you're dead. And then it's like, oh, you're going to sit there afterwards and be like, no, but look, I managed to do all of these things. I managed to carry all these bricks up on the top of the mountain, so I'm pretty great. And it's like, I think it's liberating letting these things go. And also, you have to remember, adventures do not happen in the place where you are. They happen in the great unknown.
So there's, obviously opening up. I've never ran a shop in my entire life. I've run several businesses, but never a shop. So there was an actual store. Yeah. So there was a lot of new stuff that I had to learn. Not just basic stuff like punching on a cash register, which I've never done in my entire life. I never had a job at the local petrol station or something like that. So I never did that before. So I actually had to do a training class where I bought the thing.
To learn the cash register? That's
exactly.
Nice.
I mean, it wasn't a very long course, but I still needed it. But, I need to learn about so many cool things. I mean, I sit online and I watch YouTube videos about toys and about games and about movies and about comics. Because that's my job now. I need to stay on top of things so I can get what people want in my store. And it's a dream come true. Truly is.
I'm happy for you.
Thank you very much.
Would you like some cacao from Criollo?
Definitely.
The place in the Dream that serves the bestest organically grown, vegan, delicious treats, both hot and cold.
Criollo. Steaming hot, nice cup of cocoa.
Nice cup of cocoa.
From Criollo. It's right here in Drummond?
It's in the Dream.
Wow.
It's on the other side of the river, of the Dream River, of course.
The River of Dreams. Well, I'm going to have another sip because this was great.
Sip. I think now it seems fairly appropriate for me to play a song.
Sounds great.
Yes, I will play a song. This is the point in the episode where I take the guitar. I didn't think about the guitar and this chair. It was different. Also, I apologize. I haven't tuned the guitar, but bear with me.
That's a wonderful pink guitar.
It's nice, right?
Yeah.
It's lovely. If you want a guitar, you'd want a pink one.
Why not?
Do you play any instruments or just video games?
I did play the guitar when I was a kid. I only learned 3 chords, and I could play the hell out of Hang Down Your Head, Tom Dooley.
Well, that is a classic.
Oh, yeah. And, it's always requested at, after parties.
Yeah, everyone wants to hear a song about the guy getting hanged.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's such a picker-upper.
Ladies love that.
Oh, yes.
It's true. Now, can't really. I have to cheat a little because learning songs by heart, that's a lot of work, and I have to be a talk show host. I'm not just playing music. So I'm gonna. I found a song which I like.
Yeah, that's a great start.
It's great, right? And also I found a song that I can actually play.
Ooh, I gotta have some more of this hot cocoa.
I wish if I find the song. There it is.
I'm curious now.
Yeah, yeah. That's curiosity. That's you know, that's the good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think, yeah, it's also my hair has been growing during the plague, and I think it's nice, but now it starts get, you know, if I do like this, it's starting to get, I need to get like hairpins or something, I don't know.
Yeah, that might look weird.
If it's
You've got a
pink,
nice Frank Zappa look going on now.
It's a good look, I like the look, but
I'm not sure he would be caught dead with a pink guitar though.
He's dead after all, so maybe now he wants the guitar.
Exactly, that's probably right.
I got a new life, you could hardly recognize me. I'm so glad, how could a person like me care for you? Why do I bother when you're not the one for me? Ooh. I saw the sign and it opened up my mind. I saw the sign, life is demanding without understanding. I saw the sign and it opened up my eyes. I saw the sign, no one's gonna drag you up, but to get into the light where you belong. But where do you belong? It's a pretty nice song.
That was the best rendition I've ever heard of. Wasn't it Ace of Base?
It's Ace of Base.
Oh yeah, it took me. It took. I had to hear the chorus before I caught the song.
Yeah, but I was like, you know, it was something about science. And obviously this is an attempt of doing a smooth segue into a segment that I think is called Ulf Loves Movies, because I love movies, man.
Who doesn't?
What's the name of the segment?
Ulf loves movies.
Ulf loves movies. Ulf loves movies.
I love movies.
Ulf loves movies.
This guy loves movies. Do you love movies?
Definitely. This guy also loves movies, man.
And obviously I have to stress, this is not a movie review. Because it's why do people read movie reviews? If you want to experience something, you have to experience it for yourself.
I totally agree.
So this is just a segment where we talk about loving movies. And last week, I watched the film Jeff Who Lives at Home. And in the film, Jason Segel constantly talk, especially in the beginning of the film, about the movie Signs.
Ah, yeah.
By M. Night Shyamalan. I think I said it correctly, actually.
That's not a bad feat, because it's a difficult name to pronounce.
It's a difficult name. Now, Signs is a film from 2002, which is a while ago. It's almost 20 years, actually.
Wow.
About an alien invasion. And,
rings
and
a bell.
a priest who has lost his faith because shit happened. Which it does, and you obviously, like we just talked about, quite recently had a lot of shit happening, and it's easy to lose sort of faith in life when shit gets dark.
That's true.
And I guess an alien invasion, especially if you sort of come to suspect that their intentions are not nice, but more on the, well, we're just gonna eat you or exterminate you or whatever, it sort of gets your fear levels up to 11, I guess.
I just want to make sure that our alien overlords know that I support them.
The reptiles? Yeah. You always want to get in with those people. I respect that. You know?
So just so that everything else I'm just doing, this is just fan service for Ulf if you're watching out there.
Now, I don't know if you've seen the film.
I did back in the day, but it's been a while.
In the day, it's been a while. And, you know, as I recall, when I watched the film in 2002, and then I'd watched, you know, his feature, at least like blockbuster debut, which was obviously The Sixth Sense, which everyone loved because it was like such the twister of all twists, and also Unbreakable. I really liked that film. Like it was such a beautiful rendition of sort of like, what would it be like if you were a superhero in sort of like the context of just like a normal everyday life, which I found to be quite refreshing. And also the villain was at the time so much more sort of nuanced than just like the Joker in the old Batman films, I guess. But then this film Signs came, and I have to say, I as I recall, it didn't really like it didn't sort of hit the spot, and it was something about this. Do things happen for a reason? Or are things just a coincidence? And I actually found a clip from the film, which I think sort of puts us into sort of what the film tries to sort of debate. Cool. Let's run the clip. Some people are probably thinking this is the end of the world. That's true. Do you think it could be? Yes. How can you say that? Wasn't that the answer you wanted? Couldn't you pretend to be like you used to be? Give me some comfort? People break down into two groups when they experience something lucky. Group number one sees it as more than luck, more than coincidence. They see it as a sign, evidence that there is something up there watching out for them. Group number two sees it as just pure luck, happy turn of chance. I'm sure the people in group number two are looking at those 14 lights in a very suspicious way. For them, this situation is a 50-50. Could be bad, could be good. But deep down, they feel that whatever happens, they're on their own. And that fills them with fear. Yeah, there are those people. But there's a whole lot of people in the group number one. When they see those 14 lights, they're looking at a miracle. And deep down, they feel that whatever's going to happen, there'll be someone there to help them. And that fills them with hope. See, what you have to ask yourself is, what kind of person are you? Are you the kind who sees signs, sees miracles? Or do you believe that people just get lucky? Or look at the question this way. Is it possible that there are no coincidences? I was at this party once. I'm on the couch with random McKinney. She was just sitting there looking beautiful, staring at me. I go to lean in and kiss her, and I realize I have gum in my mouth. So I turn, take out the gum, stuff it in a paper cup next to the sofa, and turn around. Randa McKinney throws up all over herself. I knew the second it happened it was a miracle. I could have been kissing her while she threw up. That would have scarred me for life. I may have never recovered. I'm a miracle man. Those lights are miracles. There you go. So which type are you? Do you feel comforted? Yeah, I do. Then what does it matter? Yeah.
Is this the Snyder cut I've heard so much about?
You know, I don't think Snyder was working on that film. But so it's Joaquin Phoenix plays the younger brother, and then it's the older brother played by Mel Gibson. I can't remember. I think his name is Garrett or something like that. But they're not saying their names a lot. So, and there are spaceships hovering over Earth, and people are somewhat panicking. And this scene, and what I love about the scene is like, so you have this priest. And the function of a priest in our society is to comfort and give you hope, right? Because in a sense, that's what religion represents. But he is a priest who has lost faith because his wife dies in a pointless accident. It just makes no sense whatsoever. And nothing makes sense for him anymore because his faith is non-existing. But his brother wants him to affirm his faith in sort of the collective goodness of humanity, and then he sort of does. Whereas, like, well, you have these people who live in fear because they feel all alone because they don't feel connected to the greater whole. But then you have the people who feel connected will always feel like this is going to work itself out. And they will think this is a miracle, whereas the others will be like, oh, this can go pretty bad. And while he's saying it, he's at the same time sort of, well, that's exactly what he believes. He doesn't believe in miracles because he's experienced firsthand that the miracle was horrible. It was his wife dying. It was like very painful.
I have to say that I probably saw this movie when it came out and then never again.
Yeah.
And all I remember of the movie was a terrible disappointment. all of the things that you brought up now, you know, excellent points. But I never got, I don't know, there's something about the movie that sort of barred me from grasping those deeper thoughts about, you know, the inner monologue and the meanings behind all of this, because it's, I don't know, you know, we had such high expectations for Shyamalan's movies, and it was it felt like such a disappointment. You really wanted to like it, but you couldn't, or at least I couldn't. So I missed out on all the deeper meanings. Well, I just saw a lot of weird stuff happening.
This is what I find so interesting. It was when I watched the film the first time in 2002 at the cinema in Trondheim, where I lived at the time, I felt equally disappointed. And I come to realize when I rewatched the film, it's basically because my life view at the time was that everything is random, everything is coincidental, and there's nothing holding the thing together. So the film sort of postulates or problematizes this, whereas the main character doesn't feel like the thing is connected. But then obviously at the end of the film, it all crescendos into this perfect synchronicity where everything he's doubting is actually there to aid him in actually trusting that he is never alone. And his wife's dying word is the thing that saves him. So his trauma is actually his savior. And so when I watch it this time, I'm crying because it's beautiful. And then he comes, his son has asthma, and it turns out like the asthma is also part of the gift. But obviously to sort of enjoy that, you just have to suspend all these beliefs, because what M. Night is trying to sort of convey is that this is a guy who sort of asks the biggest question, like, are you there for me? And then he feels there's no answer, he's not there for me because my wife dies, my son has asthma, and then aliens come to fuck the place up. And then it turns out that it's all for him. And I like that. I enjoyed that.
I mean, maybe he was that, you know, misinterpreted genius that he thought himself to be, at least.
Yeah, and obviously I'd love to have M. Night on, and we can talk about this forever. And I think what we're gonna do, and this is gonna be fun, is sometime in the not too distant future we're gonna watch The Happening together, because I hated that film.
Oh yeah, me too.
And then I'm like,
it's a big movie about nothing.
Yes.
The threat is literally nothing.
Nothing.
They're running from nothing.
The question is it trying to sort of, is it something it tries to sort of push through that we didn't get because we were expecting something else? We were expecting sort of like the twist, or like the...
Maybe it's the most meta film ever.
Yeah,
and now, you know, with hindsight, we can see that it was the best movie since like Citizen Kane or Metropolis.
Citizen Kane is a good film. That's true. I just wanted to watch that film. Isn't there's like a Netflix film about the screenwriter?
Yeah.
It's David Fincher made it.
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen that either.
Yeah, see, there's a lot of stuff that I haven't seen yet, which is good.
That's great, because you don't want to be sort of finished with watching everything and be like, what now? Then I have to go on my own adventure, which might be good, actually. I want to go back just a bit to the are things coincidence, or is there a greater meaning? And you know, when I'm wondering about these big life questions, what I like to do is I walk out into the dream and I ask people about them. Is everything a coincidence, or does everything happen for a reason?
I think for a reason.
I think it's a bigger plan.
It's a bigger plan.
I think it's a lot of purpose.
It's purpose, yeah? This is not just a coincidence?
No.
I like that.
I don't know, maybe in some way it's a coincidence, and sometimes you think you do something nice and something nice happens to you and you think, maybe it was just a coincidence, or maybe it's the universe paying you back for doing something nice.
I think it happens. As my son said, if you're nice to the world, that's what my experience is. The world is quite nice.
Yeah.
And in my next life, I shall be a bird. You see, it's always a little of you when you die that are energy.
Yeah, your soul.
Yes, and I think I will be used as a bird.
You will be a magnificent bird.
I hope so. Where do you come from?
Well, we come from the WakeUp Show.
I see, I see, I see.
We're the WakeUp Show. And who wouldn't want to be a bird? Now, obviously, this begs the question, Morten. Is it all a coincidence, or is it? Are things connected in a way? What's going on over here?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. I'm not a very spiritual person. You know, I'm not a man of faith. But I have noticed that when things are going good, good things happen.
Yeah.
But I'm not convinced that there is correlation. It's causation, but not necessarily correlation. No, the other way around, sorry. Fancy words and all late at night. So I think that if you are in a good place and you experience that good things happen to you, it's because you are more in a position to observe and react positively to things happening around you, more than it is that it was meant to be kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So I think, you know, the whole, you know, be good and good things happen to you, positive mental attitude, all that, there is something to it. I just don't think it's a spiritual thing. I think it's a matter of, you know, if you are, like I said, if you're in a positive space, you'll notice other positive things and you will naturally seek those out instead of the darker, and
if you just
depressing
look
areas.
for the negative stuff, that's what
And you'll find it, because there is a lot of shit out there. But there's also a lot of great stuff. So if you look for great stuff, you'll find it.
Yeah. If you look for beauty, you'll find beauty. If you look for ugliness, that's all you'll see.
And it's all a matter of what your frame of mind is.
Yeah.
So this is why I think positive mental attitude, the overused, PMA thing is just because, if you're happy, then you'll find happiness out there.
Yeah. And also others will find happiness in you. As
because
you
they are
said,
looking
when
for
you come into this
stuff.
shop, it actually sort of, it's contagious, like the plague. Now, I have to ask you, when you say spiritual, what do you mean? I'm just curious.
Yeah, sure.
Let's go there.
Well, yeah, like I said, I'm not religious. I don't think there are. I think when we die and we're gone.
Oh, lights out. Black.
Boom.
Nothing.
Nothingness. I'm willing. I like the idea, or that science tells us that energy just changes form, right?
Yes, the first law of thermodynamics. Now,
exactly.
Look, we are actually a science show now.
Exactly.
Matter cannot, or energy can nor cease to exist or come into existence. It's a constant.
Exactly. So, I think I don't think my consciousness will live on in something else. But the energy that is part of my life might move on to, or definitely will move on. But if it will move on to someone else and inspire them, I don't think that. That's where my kind of spirituality ends. So I'm more to the sciencey aspects of it. That this energy that is driving my body will be dissipated into something else, but not into another being. That's at least what I think.
Your experience ends at the end of the road that we have called death.
Exactly.
Oh.
So I don't think there's a lot of afterlife.
The afterlife.
Yeah.
Just watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They're talking about the afterlife, but that's where the Inhumans were hanging.
Yeah.
So I guess that was sort of taking it a bit in a different direction.
It's a different kind of afterlife.
It's a different kind of afterlife. Yeah. No, that is interesting, but at the same time, as you said, and like the dreamers say as well, that there seems to be some structure, to this, to the experience, right? It doesn't, or
to what, the experience of life.
The experience of life seems to be structured in a sense, but maybe it's just structured in birth, death, and sort of what's it called, having children and sort of doing fun stuff while you're around. But of course, I have dabbled. I would say dabbled would be a mild way of saying spirituality. When I watched Science in 2002, I was convinced I didn't have a soul. And then all of a sudden I realized that there seems to be something other than the physical me that is me. And then I started to try to sit with that, which was interesting, also a bit scary. And then sort of feeling that there's more here than sort of what I could previously sort of observe, which I guess back to the sign film would explain why I now see the film completely differently. Because at that time it was like, no, everything's a coincidence, and now, even though I wouldn't say everything is like, what's it called, free will? It does seem to me we have free will, but at the same time, I do like the feeling that there is
something's guiding you.
Yeah, no, maybe not so much guiding me, but at the same time, sort of like the opening up to the opportunities will put you where you sort of, where the good stuff is. Like for instance, okay, so there's a guy who has a comic book shop. You should go talk to him. And go talk to this guy, and it's great because that opens up sort of like a world of adventure. Whereas sort of like, well, I've talked to enough people in my life, so I don't need to know what he's doing and what his story is. And like this, I guess it's curiosity, or I do love the word adventure, I guess, because it's sort of like, well, like what's the fairy tale of Espen Askeladd, where it's sort of like, he has a quest, he's going to save the princess. It's very Super Mario-ish, I guess. And then he's sort of on the way, he sort of picks up random stuff. And it's like, why do you pick up this random stuff? And it's like, well, who knows? And And I did sort of strongly have this great feeling, whereas, you know, all these things that happen to you in your life, good or bad, are these treasures that you find along the way. And then later on in life, you will get to use them. This is your toolbox.
So I think the major difference then would be if all those things happen to you because you needed them, because something knows that you'll be needing it, or if it's just coincidence that you know you find yourself in this situation where you can utilize your experiences. That's what I would subscribe to.
Yeah, agreed.
Instead of that, you know, I was put through these trials. Super Mario reference here.
I like Super Mario references. Big fan.
Because you need this experience. I mean, if you're a gamer, you know, you're familiar with building up, you know, experience points and all that. So, you know, you could argue that life is a role-playing game where there is a dungeon master who's controlling everything, which is, again, that's religion. And I'm not big on role-playing games, to be honest.
But what if you were the dungeon master?
Well, now we're talking.
How would you lay this
Minions.
out? It's very easy to become a tyrant. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fine line. It's I think Idi Amin is quoted as saying, you know, democracy. This is my democracy, and I like that. You know, it's you know that kind of let the minions think that they have a say in it.
Yeah, but you know, and back to especially in superhero comics, typically, and I love Christopher Nolan's take in the Batman trilogy, where sort of he really sort of goes into the if you try to be the hero long enough, you find yourself becoming the villain, which is actually very true, and it's sort of so interesting how you sort of in trying to make the world safe, you end up making it into the horrific place that you sort of try to prevent it from becoming. Which I think comic books especially are a great, or superheroes are a great reminder of, because they have these powers. Yeah. But they also come with a tremendous amount of responsibility, as Uncle Ben, is that his name?
Well, yeah, when he dies, Spider-Man, you know, he recalls his uncle saying that with great power comes great responsibility.
Yes.
So yeah, that's true. I mean, that's one thing that, you know, we find in, at least in superhero comics, is this, you know, this morality that, you know, they display, you know, this need to have something to look up to for, which is a need. It's a basic need that we all need something to inspire us.
Yeah.
And you know, you can find that in religion or in superhero comics or wherever. You know, there's a, you know, and it just depends on, you know, how much you need it and how much you need it to guide you, or if you have, you know, enough what do you call it, experience to just, you know, take all those impulses and guide yourself.
Yeah. What is your favorite comic book, by the way?
Well, my favorite comic book is X-Men number 101.
X-Men number 1, very specific.
It's very specific,
Why
and there's a very specific reason for that. So, it is the comic book where the Phoenix makes her first appearance. Now, the Phoenix is, you know, galactic force that inhabits people, or you know, over time, and it's the strongest force in the universe. So, Jean Grey, one of the first X-Men, the first female X-Men. Ex-woman, I suppose. You know, she's inhabited by this force, and then through the Dark Phoenix saga, you know, she struggles with all this power that she's given. It's such a classic story arc within any, you know, within the comic book world, and it's one of the, you know, one of the really, really greats. And it's also the first X-Men comic book that was published in Norway.
Oh.
So there's a second read. That's the second reason. There were some X-Men stories published before, but this is the first one that had X-Men, you know, that was an X-Men magazine.
Yeah, it was not just in a Spider-Man or...
So there's that.
Like that,
So yeah, I kind of, you know, I got a hang-up on this. It started with that issue, and I, you know, when you're a collector, you know, you're always looking for some. Yeah, exactly. You're always looking for something to collect, right? So, I got involved in international or foreign comic collecting, which you know, it can manifest in many different ways, and one of them is you build what's called a cover set. So, in my situation, that is, I wanted a copy of every comic book in the world that had used the cover of X-Men 101. So I set out to do that, and in doing that, you know, trawling the internet, meeting people, I've made friends all over the world, and I think some of them might be watching the show today. So I've accomplished that task.
So you have all the
I have
X-Men?
one copy of every single known, there might be someone that we don't know about, copies of X-Men 101.
How many are there?
Oh, I can't recall. 12, 15, something like that. So there's like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, there's the Philippines, there's Mexico, you know, there's a whole bunch of them, and I have them all. And, but, you know, being a collector, once you know, you set a task and then you accomplish it, you get a little bit down, you know, you get that, oh, what now?
Yeah, because once you've completed your mission,
exactly,
you're ready for another adventure.
Exactly, so I figured, you know, what the hell, I'll just go for every appearance that Phoenix has done on any comic book anywhere in the world. So that's what I'm doing now.
So the character Phoenix, which is Jean Grey.
Yes.
Which I recall because I watched the X-Men films.
Yep.
And
she's been dealt a bad deck of cards in those movies, I tell you. She's not a good character in those movies. Just sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's okay.
We're talking about something I'm passionate about here.
And then obviously when you're passionate, then you should actually
let me bring out my heroine.
Let's bring her out. My God.
Here we are. This is the Phoenix.
So this is a holder and for you.
Behold.
That worked, you think? This is the Phoenix.
This is the Dark Phoenix.
The Dark Phoenix.
So there's a green suit and a red suit. So as she progresses into madness and tyranny, her suit turns red over the storyline. And then she, you know, it's an old storyline, so I can spoil it now. She dies at the end. She sacrifices herself to end the tyranny of this force, this ever-hungry, dominating force.
She does the Jesus thing.
She does. Now, she's been resurrected, I don't know how many times.
Well, that's the good thing.
That's the good thing about comics, you know, nobody ever stays dead. So yeah, it's so now you know, I'm well on the way of you know, hunting down every cover appearance that Phoenix has ever had. So I must have, I don't know, 600-700 comic books with her from all over the world.
Wow.
And
I guess that would be sort of like just an ever-growing. That's not a task. That's not a quest you'll be finished with like anytime soon.
Not anytime soon, no. But I'd say I'm about 70% done. That's a rough guess.
But now you've done the easy part, right? Now it's the hard to find stuff, and now the real like archaeology stuff starts sort of kicking in. Well,
the interesting thing though with the internet is that you can connect with people all over the world, right?
Yes, you can.
And
it's a global phenomenon.
Exactly. And there are two groups that I'm active in on Facebook where a lot of these collectors meet. And so I've met and talked to, and I have friends all over the world now because of that, because of my interest in comics. I can fly to pretty much any country in the world and be greeted by someone that I know or have talked to on
so awesome.
Facebook.
You have someone on the inside.
Exactly.
You have a pal in the country.
Exactly.
So much greater to go there.
So yeah, I mean, and that's another aspect of comics or collecting or nerdism, is it connects people.
It's a community.
I used to work many years ago as a recruiter or as a headhunter, and being a computer guy myself, I would go hunting for computer, people to fill jobs within the computer industry, right? And so there is a stereotypical representation of a nerd, and he would be typically introverted.
Yes, he would. This is true.
And it's not wrong. But the fascinating thing, which I first sort of became conscious about was while working as a recruiter, is that when you get people with common interest together,
They're not
that
introverts
introversion
anymore. It's
dissipates.
gone. Yeah.
And they just talk like, you know, like a talk show host.
Yes.
And that was just stuck with me. And I've seen it so many times. You know, KanonCon started as a convention, a comic book convention, or a nerd convention in Oslo in 2019. And so many different people came. And it was so beautiful to see all these people who probably would never have talked to each other. But
they found a place, a common
under
ground,
this umbrella,
that's
they
nice.
started to talk and they started to connect. And, you know, I hope that some people made some new friends that day. I know I did. And S03E10, which was on your show, you know, I've made him as a friend through comics.
Yeah.
And I've made so many friends through things that I love. And I've made 0 friends doing things that I hate. So I'm trying to do more things that I love.
That's not your best self, is it? When hating this friend.
You know, but hate can unify as well, but it's not the good unified kind.
That's the more starting wars.
Exactly.
That's that type of
We can
friendship.
read about that in the comic books, and then we can close the book on it and then be done with it.
What is so? I remember, you know, in Harry Potter, which is a very mythological and sort of
fantastic story.
Fantastic story. The phoenix is the bird, and its feather. It will die, and then it will
rise from the
ashes. And well, there's one fun thing which I like, is your favorite comic book character will never die because she will always resurface, whereas you will.
But I'm not the Phoenix.
You're not the Phoenix. Are you sure of this?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I don't have any plans of dying anytime soon. But, you know, I don't know what the universe has planned for me.
Never stop planning for dying. That's horrible. That's horrible idea.
But, you know,
what I like about it, and again, because I think this is fun, is like in relation with this priest in science, where he's talking about like these signs, these things that you sort of put into your reality. What are they telling you? And then it's sort of fun how we sort of with the superheroes, with sort of these amazing godlike creatures, like Thor obviously is a god, and like these energies of the universe which are eternal. But we somehow insist that we would never be or could never be sort of affiliated with this. It's just a fantasy, which I like, and also I find it so. Like these stories come from somewhere, right? And we conjure these amazing fantasies, and it seems to me like they're grounded in something.
I mean, all stories, be it comic books or, you know, classics or whatever, I mean, there is a journey there.
Oh, the hero's journey.
Exactly, and that's what, you know, we see in comics so many times. It's, you know, it's this, you know, these things happen and then justice prevails kind of thing.
Yes.
We want this to happen, you know, or to quote a movie, you need me on that wall. We need this to happen, you know. We want to this. I think this is why we love anti-heroes and, you know, the bad guys, but we love, you know, the heroes more. But we love reading about the bad guys and messing everything up, the Joker and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, we want him to go down. We just want to see him wreak havoc first, and then we want him to go down. And that's what we get in comics and movies and stories, you know, all the way back to the Greek classics. Everything is a hero's journey. I mean, you put through some trials and tribulations and then you come out the other end triumphantly.
Yes, with the treasure.
And, you know, the princess and half the kingdom.
Oh, yes. How does this, like, how many times can you split up a kingdom before you're just left with a small patch of land? I'm curious.
That's Norway now.
Yeah, no, that is, I like how, you know, I'm a big fan of Campbell and his Hero with 1,000 Faces and the mythology and the hero's journey. And, you know, my favorite thing is this, leaving the village is the thing I like the most, because it's the hardest thing to do. Is you have this thing, it's safe. There's nothing bad happening. But at the same time, and I am currently reading Lord of the Rings, and I think it's so perfect because you know, I'm just gonna say Lando, but it's not. It's what's his name? Not Bilbo,
Frodo?
but Frodo. Lando, Frodo is not that
Lando
different.
Calrissian, that's the Star Wars.
He should come in there. That'd be fun. And he is in a place where everything is okay, but outside things are sort of like starting to get a bit like rotten. But it's like that's not my problem. But all of a sudden he finds himself sort of in the center position where he has to sort of resolve the greatest crisis this world has ever seen, with the worst imaginable enemies, and there is just something really like important with these stories to remind us of. I think like even I heard someone talking about like the story of Noah and the Ark, where it's not literally about this guy who's fortunate enough to build an ark. It is someone who is actually prepared and who is expecting the worst, or not expecting the worst, but sort of actually sort of present so that he realizes what's going on. And you know, Gandalf is very much present, and that's why Gandalf is worried. Because he sees these subtle things.
The signs.
The signs.
So once you've done reading Lord of the Rings,
yes,
you should come back to my shop and buy a Norwegian comic book called Side Quest.
Side Quest.
And because it's a very fun. So Lord of the Rings, you know, fantasy and, you know, big journeys and all that kind of stuff. But you never hear about the people who want to go on the journeys but aren't allowed. So Side Quest is a hilarious Norwegian comic book. And, you know, it covers the journey of these 4 useless heroes that are trying to leave the village but are just unable to leave it.
I like
that. And
it's
fabulous. You're going to love it. So come back once you've read the big story, come back and read the tiny, tiny little funny stories. Yeah, it's great fun.
I like that.
That was a little plug because I know the guys behind the book.
But it's important, you know. That's what friends are for, you know. It's we help each other. We spread the joy and the word.
So yeah, and it's all, you know. Many people ask me, why are there so many comic books? I mean, why isn't there just one title?
Well, yeah, why wouldn't you just like Superman finished?
Exactly. I mean, he's, you know, Superman. You know, what more could you want, right?
Yeah, his only flaw is kryptonite.
Exactly. You know, do you know why his flaw is kryptonite, by the way?
You have to tell me.
It was a radio show initially.
Yes.
And
like in the radio days.
Actor needed a break. He needed to go on holiday. And they needed a cause for him to go out.
And he was Superman.
And they invented kryptonite because he was out of the story for a little while.
Take a vacation.
So he could go. I don't know if it was you know, if his wife was sick or something, but they just needed Superman out of the picture for a little while.
That is beautiful.
Exactly. And so, you know, you just find something that little isn't it called Deus Ex Machina? That little story plot device that is just there because it drives the story. So,
yes.
But there are so many different comic books that can appeal to so many, because we're so many different people. And
there's
we
like
care
8
about
billion
different
people.
Yeah, and we care about different things, and different things inspire and affects us. So whilst a common theme is this hero's journey, there are just so many characters, you know. It used to be just big, strong man. Now there's, you know, big, strong women, there's weak women, there's boys, there's girls, there's, you know, old people. There's just, you know, it's just people of color. There's just a diversity. So that, whereas before there wasn't, you read the stories, but you couldn't necessarily identify. Now there's a comic book, pretty much whatever your interest or, whatever you identify as, you can find a comic book that will, represent you. Yeah. And still have the same kind of story arcs and the same kind of journeys, which is why I love comics. It's just so diverse. So yeah, we don't need one. We need more than what we already have, and we have a lot.
Yes, and so also there are the creative flow, and even though someone's made something before, when you make something, it's a new thing because you made it, and just that's how things evolve. That's how things grow. Mm-hmm. And if we, like you said, if we were just happy about the first comic book and then everyone passed it around and just reread it, that's like. There was this stand-up comedian who had this great example of how to become a shitty stand-up comedian was if all you do is just tour and do your stand-up act, eventually your stand-up act's just going to be about you traveling around doing stand-up acts. So it's going to be about shitty hotel rooms and sort of like the green rooms and people will stop relating to you because you're not living life and you are disconnected with reality. And that's why all of these things have to evolve. But at the same time, we also have the pleasure of looking back because they will actually also function as a mirror to the past. Which also, I guess, because I noticed in your store that there are old stuff, there's new stuff, and that's sort of like the gift of especially physical things. It's like it is old. It's the paper. It's the smells, and it's like it's an experience in itself.
There's a tactile feel to it.
Yeah,
and I'm all for digital comics or even digital communication. But I think one of the things that COVID has really brought up to my attention and hopefully to many others is the fact how terrible it would be if we only did digital communications.
Yeah.
I think we've underestimated, or I think a lot of people have underestimated the importance of physical meetings.
Human connection.
Exactly. You can follow up an existing connection online, but it's so difficult to make that connection if you've never met the person. Yeah. And I think there's a chemistry. I mean, like literal science, like pheromones or whatever. I'm on thin ice here because I'm no scientist.
It's okay. It's not the science it shows. It's fine.
But there is something. It's so much easier to relate to a person when you've met them.
Yeah.
And this whole, I think everybody will just work from home now. And if we do that,
we'll all go insane.
The suicide rates in this country are just going to go through the roof. Because we need to be together with people. And you can relate that to, while I personally read a lot of comics digitally, but I still collect physical comics, and I still like to read physical comics, as well as digital. So there's certain comics that work well on the screen, and there's certain comics that I want that tactile feel to it.
Yeah.
And I like the older comics in paper because there's shitty paper quality and it's just there's just something charming about it.
Yes.
And it's not that I hate modern comics. There's a lot of terrific stuff that comes out all the time, and Norway is on a roll at the moment. There's just so many good comics released in Norway, in print, in book form, and I read all those in print. But yeah, there's just so many forums to enjoy this media, this art form.
I think that's the thing is sort of to remember it's an art form. Mm-hmm. It's more than just something you churn through. And I would like to say it doesn't have to be either or, it can be both.
Exactly.
And I also like to think that the gift of science is that we don't have to sort of, because typically what we humans like to do is like we have to know for sure whether it's this or that, but it can be both. and then when things are more open, it doesn't get so polarized, and it doesn't become a battle. Whether it's like, well, there must only be digital comics or there must only be physical comics. It's both can coexist.
Exactly, and they
because
do.
They fulfill different needs for different people.
Exactly.
At different times in their lives.
Norway has not been terrific in terms of digital comics. There's, but in America, I mean, all these superhero comics, they're perfect digitally because they reached a whole audience who just had sort of stopped going to the comic book stores.
Yeah.
And it was so easy to download it on your iPad. Whilst in Norway, we still have a quite broad distribution of comics in general distribution, and pretty much anything now that is released, they're released in book form, sold through specialty shops like mine, or the bookstores.
Yeah.
So it's quite widely available, and there's a common misconception that people aren't reading comics anymore, and that kids aren't reading comics, that they're just watching TikTok and just playing computer games, but it's not true. There's a huge success comic book in Norway called Nordlys, and it's the 4th book just came out, and it's just sold, I think, over 100,000 books.
Well, in Norway, that's like a lot.
It's a lot in any country these days.
Well, that's true.
And it's, kids are reading these books. There are a lot of, it's a new wave now that it's been sort of themed Nordic manga. Manga is a Japanese comic. So Nordic manga is just on a roll at the moment. Nice. There are just books coming out left, right, and center, and they are all great. So if you are under the misconception that kids aren't reading comics anymore, bring them here, and we'll resolve that misconception.
Well, it's so great. You have this thing. You have this passion, and you have a space. And the moment this plague has outplagued itself,
I like that. Outplagued. It's a nice play on words.
Plague got plagued. You got plagued, plague.
Oh yes.
And what you're saying, like, humans need humans. We're tribal animals. We're communal creatures. We thrive, social, and creatively. Talking together. That's how you get like inspired. And there's something about just the physical connection, just being there. It's like with this show, I was also contemplating, because all of a sudden everything shuts down. It's like, should I just have my guests through video chat? But no, I want to sit, talk to a person who I want to get to know, and because that's precious, and it's.
And for anyone who's worried, we laser measured our distance to be exactly 2 meters. So that you don't have to scream bloody murder out there.
Yes, also showered in antibacterial cream prior to coming here. Yeah, all safe and sound. It feels like we sort of landed in like a good place. That's a good sign, wouldn't you say?
You came here into the happy place.
The happy place. Now, on this show, when we sort of conclude the show, I like to find a quote that I think works well for tonight's episode. And I brought this iPad over here next to Vader, and then I have searched the internet, because the internet is great for searching for stuff, and I'll search for a quote. Yeah. Because quotes, I like quotes.
Cool.
Yeah, comics are full of quotes, like you said, with great power comes great responsibility, but we already talked about that one, so I have to find something else. Well, let's see if we can't track something down here. Here we go. This is a good one, I think. This one will work. And so what I want you to do is I want you to read this quote into this camera over here.
I'm gonna have to put on some glasses,
cool
because
glasses.
I don't read well anymore. I'm getting old. I'm getting Who a new guest just came.
Where'd the superhero go? Well, yeah.
Well, there you go. It's a good quote. Into the camera?
Into the camera, yeah.
If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make the change.
Yeah.
It's a good quote.
It's a good quote. And I feel like hearing about you and sort of your adventures and the darkness and the lightness and sort of, well, it does sound like you made that change and you created this space, being you, for others to come here and enjoy the fact that you are just being yourself, which I think is wonderful, because that's what the world need, is people just being themselves, not trying to be something you read in the newspaper somewhere, like it should be like this or like that, or have this funny hat or something like that. I like that.
Thank you very much.
And well, when we're sort of ending things, well, I have to say, this has been so much fun. I love you, man. This is so great.
Thank you very much. I love you too.
Thank you. And I love this place. I just want to move in here with the cameras and everything, of course.
There's a lot of love in the room right now.
There's a lot of love in the room. Markus, I love you, man. And to all my viewers out there, I love you too. And of course, if you're a patron, well, I love everyone, so it doesn't give you like a special hall pass or anything, but it does give you access to the ULF experience. If you go to patreon.com/thewakeupshow, where you can see me confront my fear of horses, ice bathing, trying this medicinal frog called Combo, and other things. Also, now I wanted to show the fun clip, which I almost forgotten, because once I made an ad for the show which looks really superhero, and you're gonna enjoy it. Run the superhero Wake Up Show thing.
I have a dream that one day a man will fall out of the sky like some awesome superhero from a Hollywood blockbuster movie. And he, namely me, will wake you all up.
It seemed appropriate at the time, right?
Completely appropriate.
It's a perfect ending. And so, and obviously thank you to Criollo, it's wonderful cacao. Oh my God, just want to dive into this, just live there.
Yep, definitely. Smells that terrific.
We shall end with a song.
Ooh, terrific. I love music.
I love music, and I have the guitar. Now, I think actually we'll do my favorite song. You can never be reminded often enough about sort of, I don't know, gratitude, and not those hard feelings, you know, people have done shitty things, and maybe it's like, let that stuff go. Because at the end of it all, well, who knows? Let's see here, if I can pull this off. When my body won't hold me anymore, and it finally sets me free, will I be ready? When my feet won't walk another mile, and my lips give their last kiss goodbye, will my hands be steady? Will I lay down my fears, my hopes and my doubts, the rings on my fingers and the keys to my house, with no hard feelings. When the sun hangs low in the west, and the light in my chest, it won't be kept, held at bay any longer. When jealousy fades away and it's ash and dust for cash and lust, and it's just hallelujah. And love in thought, love in the words, love in the songs they sing in the church, with no hard feelings. Lord knows they haven't done much good for anyone, kept me afraid of cold, with so much to have and hold. When my body won't hold me anymore, and it finally sets me free, where will I go? Will the trade winds take me south, through Georgia grain, tropical rain, or snow from the heavens? Will I join with the ocean blue, or run into my city true, and we'll shake hands laughing and walk through the night, straight for the light, holding the love I've known all my life, with no hard feeling. Lord knows they haven't done much good for anyone, kept me afraid and cold, with so much to have and hold. Under the curving sky, I'm finally learning why it matters for me and you to say it and mean it too, for life and its loveliness and all of its ugliness, good as it's been to me, I have no enemies, I have no enemies, I have no enemies, I have no enemies.
I'm just mesmerized by your pink guitar and watching your fingers play. It was beautiful, man.
Thank you. It was great. Run outro clip.